Okay. Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's probably the same one they have. They just refreshed. Can you? This is the one.
Mm-hmm.
Refresh the stream.
Thanks. They're in a new building too, so they're trying to figure out their side. We're all in flux today. Oh. One of the, yeah.
Inside student.
Yeah. So he's probably whining.
Anxious,
Yeah. Eyes up, Pupper.
Is that you want just this okay right here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
I
it's
don't.
frozen.
Yeah,
That's not good.
that was why I switched to the other one.
The other one was working.
They don't really need to see me.
Okay, so we'll just go straight to which one here? Screen, right?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Yeah. I think that's good because honestly, that thing is like the camera quality needs to be fixed. I think.
I'd be more worried.
Ask them if the audio is working now.
Don't have sound.
If we don't have sound, can you give us a second, please? Space, and we didn't have time, so
Sure.
no problem. So maybe on our end it was fine actually.
Yeah.
But still better you use the one that we're using.
Yeah, it's good to know. Yeah, when I
See the sound going here.
when I learned,
I'm not sure why it says both mics. That's bizarre.
I've never used this one before, so this is new for me. I'd rather be using the new stuff. Thank you.
We don't have sound. Can you give us a second, please? So this, how long is this class usually for you?
I'll be fine.
In an hour?
It's 2. I usually get it done in an hour and a half-ish,
Okay,
so
yeah,
it'll be
buffer
fine.
time, yeah.
They're just eagerly awaiting learning about resumes. That's fine. But I'd be more concerned about the camera if Tara wasn't there now. They have her in person, so I feel like that's fine. CS representation in Calgary.
Put up on the TV, but they don't have sound. That's bizarre, right?
I think it's running. It may be running through Tara's computer, so I told her to check to see if she was muted. That happens to me sometimes. You guys are on top of it. I appreciate you. I apologize. We're getting Calgary set up. Very important. VIP. Thank you, KV. Sure. I mean, at the worst, I can just call Tara. At the worst, right? Do. I was all excited about this, and now it's not working. How's it going? It's working? Oh, can you go back to the Calgary feed? You're going to be my Calgary eyes and ears. How do we know? Oh, you have it up? And you can hear me. Okay, so it's a Calgary issue. Yeah. All right. Well, did you tell Tara to check and see if her computer's on mute? Okay. Oh, I can hear myself. That's trippy. I always sound weird to myself, like when I'm recorded. Plus, my voice is weird today. Probably from my yesterday sore throat. All right. Do you want to call Tara? Troubleshoot? See if we can help? I'm ready to go. We should do Scream Team now. Hey, Calgary can't hear me anyway, right? That'd be a good time to tune in.
The moment you started screaming, they
Yeah, right? That's usually the way it goes. Oh, they're good? All right, so they can hear me. Ready to go? Are we ready, Calgary? That's gonna trip me out. Let me tell you, from Florida, the fact that it's dark here and the sun sets at like 4:15 really still trips me out. I come to work, it's bright, I go home, and I feel like it's midnight, and it's really only 5. Okay, Calgary, are you ready? Can you let me know if you're ready, please? You're ready, I know. The pupper is ready. Who's a good boy? Or girl, yeah? Yeah, I saw that. Just want to confirm. Okay, they're ready, so we can start. Woo! All right. TGIF, happy Friday. Welcome to building your resume, specifically building a developer resume. How many of you have designed, created, or written a resume before today? How many of you feel really awesome about how that resume looks? Oh, are you gonna make? I'll put it up here. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So, I know that you guys are working really hard at boot camp on becoming the best developer that you can be. So we want to help you display that to your future potential employers. So when you need a super break from coding, you can work on your resume, and you will need it for our lecture next week. Y'all will draft one after this, bring it to the classroom on Wednesday, and we'll pair off and review them. But oh, my computer's now frozen. Really? Really, world? Okay, woo, all right. So, you're going to be creating live resumes for us. A live resume is just, it's hosted on the internet somewhere. That can be Google Drive if you want, but make sure your permissions are open for anyone to view. Or I'm going to really be talking about Credle, because to me, that's the easiest way to build a resume, because it kind of tells you what you need on there, and you just fill it out, and then you choose like a template design, and it formulates it on one page for you. But the reason for that is when you update that resume, it continuously updates to the same link. So what we're providing to employers is your name and that resume link, and then what we're going to call a tagline, and we'll get there. And that's what we send them out. So if they're accessing your resume and you're adding new projects, they're automatically going to see the updates. So it's kind of just a way for you to host in one place. So whenever you update it, everybody that sees it gets the update. If that makes sense. So that's the live resume that you're going to create for us in Vancouver. You'll be sending that link to me in a survey later, and Calgary, you'll be sending them to Tara. So what can you do to build a resume? Mine is currently built in Word, and when I found Credle, I was like, yes, because it's super easy. But Credle is free. I will show you how it works a little bit later, but it's a system where you can just choose the category that you're going to fill in, like projects or employment, and it tells you what you need to say, where you need to say it, and it designs it for you, which is super nice and super simple. And then, since you're all going to become super fabulous developers, when you graduate boot camp and you're not super slammed with a bunch of stuff to do, you can certainly create yourself a website if you'd like, and just update us with that link, and we'll use that. But for now, Credle or Canva, they're both free, they both look cool, they're both really easy to use, are good tools for you to build your first dev resume. And if you want to, you can use GitHub and get super fancy. But for the purposes of time crunch, and because I know that you're slammed with things to do, the top and the bottom, Credle and Canva, are probably the two easiest tools to use. So what goes in a resume? Well, and this, you'd be surprised on how many people forget the number one there, your contact information, your name, most notably at the top, and then how do they get a hold of you? Also, a summary, which is like 3 to 4 sentences about who you are and what you're doing. Usually it starts with something like, I'm a full stack web developer, because, or front end or back end, your preference, but that's what you're all going to be. Then you need your skills, especially in the tech space. they want to know all of the frameworks and systems and databases you've worked with, especially if they're using keyword searches. So you're going to put all your tech skills there. Your projects that you're doing here, maybe some that you've done in the past and some that you'll do in the future. Your education, which includes web development diploma from Lighthouse Labs. And then if you have work experience, awesome. And then other things too. Work experience and experience in general can include things that you've done that you didn't get paid for. But we'll get into each one of these a little bit more in depth. So what goes in your contact information section? Well, most notably, your email and your phone number and your GitHub, because hey, you're trying to become a developer, yeah. So also your LinkedIn, if you have one. If you don't, I highly recommend building one. I know just in this room, KV's network is extensive on LinkedIn, and you can really utilize that as a tool in your job search. What do you not put in your contact information? Social media. Like, I don't want to see your Twitter. I don't want to see your Facebook. I mean, maybe I do personally, just out of sheer curiosity, but no social media for employers, like no Instagrams, none of that stuff. I have seen many a unique thing in contact information. So something else notable is your email address. If your email address is rainbowunicorn82@gmail.com, I highly suggest that you create a professional email address for your job search with your name. If you don't, it's free. Go on Google and make a professional email address. You would be surprised at the things that I have seen. Rainbow Unicorn 82 was a real email address, and they sent me their resume from that email address. So I got Rainbow Unicorn 82. Wow, okay. See, Rainbow Unicorn 82 upsets the doggy too. So please, please, please create a professional email for yourself, and also GitHub name, make sure it's appropriate and it doesn't have naughty words in it. Questions on contact information? Skype? No. If an employer does want to contact you or have an interview over Google Hangouts or Skype or something like that, you guys will exchange that information in email. No need to put Skype on there. You don't want anybody looking at your Skype at like midnight anyways. Just think about what you want them to see of yours. Another thing that I see a lot is full-on mailing addresses. You don't need to include your street address on your resume. They're not going to send you snail mail or come to your house, so you're good. City and province is fine, but don't put your whole street address. All right, any more questions on contact information? Cool. Your summary. So this is arguably the most difficult section on your resume to create. I still struggle with this, and I've been a career counselor for 5 years now. But your summary is, 3 to 5 sentences about you, your passion, what brought you into development, what do you have to offer that's unique. So a good way to start these things off is, I am a full stack front-end, back-end web developer with a background in whatever your background's in, if you have one. Maybe it's 7 years experience in marketing, or maybe it's a bachelor's of engineering, or whatever it is that you're bringing to the table along with your ability to be a developer would be a good first sentence of your summary. So other things to talk about: what brought you into coding? Like, how did you get into this in the first place? Maybe you were 5 years old writing programs in MS-DOS, or that really dates me because I'm ancient. But whatever it is that brought you here, that got you into this in the first place, that's a cool thing that makes you unique, that an employer might like to read in the summary. Why are you here? What's driving you? And I don't want, I'm not saying to use the word passionate, because I see that all the time. I am a passionate web developer or full stack web developer. I want to know why you're passionate, not the word itself, if that makes sense. So your summary, snapshot of you, basically. What are you bringing to the table along with whether you're a full stack front end, back end? What's your past experience? Why are you passionate about this? And what do you want to gain, and what can you provide? Those are things to be thinking about when you're designing your summary. Here is an example of one of our former students' summaries. I will be sending this slide deck to you guys right after this too, so you can use it when you're building. But full stack web developer with a passion for building apps and creative problem solving. So that little one sentence is what I usually use for your all's taglines. So when we send your name and your resume link and a little snippet about you to an employer, it's usually the first sentence of your summary. So when you're thinking about that first sentence, think about what would you want an employer to read. So we usually suggest, again, whether you're full stack, front end, back end, what's your preference there? If you're not sure, just use full stack. And then why are you here, or what's your background if you think it's useful. So your summary, an easy way to go about writing it is to think about your elevator pitch, which is if you were in an elevator for 30 seconds with an employer, what would you want them to know about you? So who are you? What do you have to offer? Why are you interested in this? And how am I a good fit? Which is kind of what I was just saying, but a little bit more in depth. So we're going to have a little activity. You guys are going to pair off, or groups of 3, either way, and start formulating with each other how you're going to write your summary. Talk about what brought you here and help each other figure out what's unique and what you could use in that summary. You got like 10 minutes. So see if you can get her done in 10 minutes, and that'll save you some time later when you're drafting your resume. But start thinking about that summary, and I'm going to go back a slide so you guys have the questions that you can start asking yourself to formulate this. Well, this is a, yeah. Is it Calgary is good? Okay, I'm gonna. All right, Calgary, you got 1 more minute. Oh, Mary told you already. On the ball, Mary.
You said you was playing. I was playing his song.
Well, now it's not playing, so I look like a jerk. That's how old I am. That song was popular when I was in 4th grade. Walk like an Egyptian. My mic's on now. I forgot. Okay, are we ready? Is Calgary ready to come back? All right, we're gonna bring it back. Bring it on back, y'all. Bring it on back. Bring it on back. Back that thing up. Okay, cool. All right, Calgary's ready. You guys ready? Come back to me, por favor. Thank you. Cool, we're gonna move on. All right, how was that? Summary, discussion. Yeah, all right, back. We're back. Come back to me. Back in the back. Gentlemen, we are moving on. Thank you. Cool. All right, how was that, Calgary? How was that, Vancouver? Pretty awkward, right? Awkward? Oh no, I lost my computer again. Yeah, so you're probably going to want to marinate on those thoughts for a minute, and when you're drafting, it may come more naturally, but it's really difficult to do. So I wanted to put it out there that when you do get to the individual resume feedback from me, I will be reading them and I will kind of reorganize them maybe a little and send you back a draft that you can then use if you choose to. So I know they're really hard to write. I'm here to help. So I will absolutely be helping you with your summaries because they're super difficult. And now that that's over, let's get to the easier stuff on your resume, which is your skills. So all your technical skills at Lighthouse, before Lighthouse, and after Lighthouse are going to go in your tech skills section. And that tech skills section comes right after your summary. You want it right at the top so an employer doesn't have to be scrolling to find out if you have JavaScript experience, right? So sometimes they do look and they don't just crawl through with keyword searches. So think and dig deep and put everything that you've ever touched on there, especially everything you're using at Lighthouse. And when you guys get to your final projects, you'll be adding even more software on there. Also, if you speak more than one language, the skills section is a good place to add right underneath the tech stacks languages, spoken languages, and then list the languages that you speak if you speak more languages than one. That's a common question I get. Where do I put on my resume that I'm bilingual? There it is, spoken languages. Make sure you include English if you are listing more than one language. Okay, that's just a pro tip from me. English and Mandarin, or English and French. Questions on tech skills? Well, you are going after junior dev jobs, so comfortable enough that if you were tasked to do something with it, you would know where to find how to do it if you didn't already know. Is that a sufficient answer? Everything. No, and that goes with languages too, before I move on to projects. Don't put a language on there if you can't understand someone that speaks to you in that language, because an employer could just flip that on and start speaking to you in French, and if your face goes, probably not a good move. Calgary can't see my face, but it was not a good face. Any other questions about skills before we move on? Things I don't want to see in your skills section. Team player, passionate, creative, avoid. Okay, projects. This is one of your most important sections on your resume. This is what you're really going to leverage to get into those junior dev positions. Super important, comes right after your tech skills. So, projects. What do you need in your project section? Well, you need the name of what it is that you're doing. What's the name of your project? And that project should be linked to your actual GitHub where you're hosting that project so that an employer can look at your code. Also, you need a short summary, and I mean short, like 1 sentence, for most of your projects, but your midterm and final might require 2. and also the tech stack you used for that project. So I know you just did your skill section and you put them all there, but each project also needs the tech stack you used to create it. So if an employer is looking specifically for Node.js or something like that, they can look at only those projects that you used that for. Make sense? Cool. All right, education and experience. After your contact, summary, tech skills projects, it's your choice to what you think should come next, whether that's education or work experience or activities or whatever you choose to add. But make sure the order is contact, summary, skills, projects. Everything after that, your choice. So you've got education, you're here at Lighthouse. Make sure you add Lighthouse Labs. A lot of students forget to put Lighthouse because you're currently here. But when you graduate, you can put the future date. That's January, I think, for you guys, right? Yeah. So you'd put Lighthouse Labs, Web Development Diploma, January 2020. Even though you don't have it yet, because it's a future date. So an employer knows you graduate in January. And then anything else, if you got a bachelor's degree or certificate, if you've taken a whole bunch of courses in Code Academy, that's education too. So start thinking about, even if you in college, for instance, got like a BFA or something like that, if you took electives or any courses within that degree or program that are directly relevant to this, like design or calculus, who knows, you can actually indicate those courses in your education section. So if you've got like bachelor's of fine arts in theater, but you took intro to web development, I would put courses, intro to web development, underneath your BFA degree. What is Calgary's question?
Should we link the URL of the project?
You want to link the URL whenever you can. Sometimes you may not be able to if you take on a freelance contract and it's under non-disclosure, and that's okay. Then you just note that you can't share that code, but any time that you can link to anything that an employer can see, even if it's only the front end, go for it. Cool. Sorry, I missed out on that for a minute. Okay, so education, any questions on that? If you're adding a school outside of Lighthouse, you need the school name, the degree title, and only the month and year that you graduated, not the range. That's a question I get a lot too. Doesn't, like, if you were a part-time college student for 10 years, it's no different. They just want to see when you got the certification. Some people ask, can I add education if I didn't graduate? You can, if it's relevant. Add that you attended a school. That's the only time where you'd have a range and not just a month and year. And then put the courses that you were taking that are relevant to development. Okay, so should you link to both the front end and the back end if you can? Sure, but the back end's more important in this case. Okay, any questions on education or projects left? No, cool. All right, so work experience or other experience such as maybe you are volunteering with an organization and you hold a position like vice president or something like that. That's also considered experience. It doesn't have to be something that you're paid, as long as you just call it experience and not work experience. So that's notable too. In Credle and Canva, I believe this section is called employment, but you have the ability to rename sections. So I call it, on my resume, it just says experience or selected experience and other experience, depending on how much experience you have. But what goes in an experience section is anything that you think is transferable. So I'm a career counselor, so I use that as an example a lot. But some of my other experience, like buying castings for missiles at Lockheed Martin, not super related to career counseling unless I'm actually talking about why I'm a career counselor, which is because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I don't actually include that experience on my resume because we only get one page. So that's another reason why LinkedIn is super valuable. So you're not limited to that one page. But back to experience. What do you need in an experience section? You need anything that you've done that you can speak to that's related as in a transferable skill to being a dev. So how do you get that across? The dreaded bullet is how you get that across. So not only do you need your employer, the dates that you worked there, and your title, you also need bullets to tell an employer what you were doing at that place. So bullets are super hard to write, not as hard as your summary, but probably the second most difficult thing on your resume, because it's a sentence with no subject, which breaks the laws of the English language and becomes difficult to think about. So if you're using previous experience, what were you doing there that shows responsibility or shows creativity or shows something that's related to being a developer? You're going to write a bullet about it. Bullets need to be beginning with a verb. So like instead of I was responsible for, or key responsibilities colon, which I see that a lot, please avoid key responsibilities colon, and then a long list of like one word things. We're not doing that. Think about what you were doing. So if you were, let's say, I don't know, maybe you're the vice president of a club or an organization outside of Lighthouse, outside of here, and you want to get across that you're responsible for a budget of, I don't know, $10 million, we'll say. How do you get that across in bullet form? You wouldn't say responsible for a budget of $10 million. You would say kept or keep a budget of $10 million. Start with the verb. If you're currently doing said job, then the verb is present tense. So you would say keep a budget of $10 million. And if you're done doing that job, the verb is past tense, and you would say kept a budget of $1 million. So the most important thing to remember when you're writing bullets, and you'll have these slides as a guide for you, is how can I get it across in a tangible way? So maybe you're a manager and you manage a team. So you want to get across that you manage a team of people in your bullets. So you could say manage a team, and that could be your bullet, but that doesn't really get across the scope of the management that you're doing, because managing a team of 10 is a whole different experience than managing a team of 100. So thinking about concrete information that you can leverage, whether that's percentages or money or people or something tangible that an employer can read and understand better what exactly it was you were doing, is a way to think about writing a bullet. Clear as mud, right? Just so you guys know, there are no concrete rules of how to write a resume. This is simply what we've gained knowledge-wise as to what works. But if you feel super, super strongly about key responsibilities colon, it's your document at the end of the day, but I highly recommend against it. Questions about bullets? And I'm here to help you all with these two. Go ahead.
I have a question about resume on LinkedIn. Do you have to, if you have a long list of different places that I work at, do you have to just forgo and delete some of them so that?
Okay, so the question is, do you have to delete things on LinkedIn?
Yeah, the previous experiences if they go far back.
No, the question was, do you have to delete things that go too far back on LinkedIn? No, you don't have to delete anything ever on LinkedIn. You can go all the way back to 2004 on my LinkedIn. Like, that's why it's awesome, because you don't have to not include anything that you've done. On a resume, it's different. You only want to include what's relevant because you want it to be one page, but also anything that's over a decade old really isn't relevant anymore, unless, like, for instance, I was a game tester at Electronic Arts. Best job ever in college, let me tell you. Going in your pajamas and you're playing video games. It was really rad. They filmed inside the NFL while I was there, so if you watched it in 2007, you saw me in my little camo hat at the computer. But anyway, if I was going to apply to Electronic Arts again in the future, even though that experience is from 2006, I would still include it because I'm a former employee of said company. So there are times where the decade-long rule is broken, but only if it's super, super relevant.
What about our connections? If we were working in a different industry and we have connections that are mostly in that industry, do you think we should create another LinkedIn profile, or should we go and then?
Okay, the question was, should I have multiple LinkedIn accounts to leverage all of my connections everywhere? No, you only need one LinkedIn. Like, you want to put everything that you've done on there. Now, what you can do to specify where you're at now, if it's different than where you were before, is use your summary section on LinkedIn to put your summary that's on your development resume that says, hey, I am now a full stack web developer currently looking for opportunities. Please hire me. No. But you can actually utilize LinkedIn for that. So Your resume is one page. Everything here that we're talking about is based on a resume. A LinkedIn is kind of where you can just put everything. I actually use it as my master resume, and I have my bullets on there. So when I want to create one, I just copy paste stuff from my LinkedIn, and then I don't have to create 10 different resumes. So we do actually get to LinkedIn at some point, but for now, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Calgary's good? Cool. All right, moving on. Here's some more examples. I talked about this already. You guys will have this slide deck. Examples of awesome bullets that I have written for you. All right. Hidden experience. A lot of you guys have these things and you don't think about them. They don't come to the forefront of your mind when you're creating a resume. So hidden experience is your previous education before you were a dev. We kind of talked about those transferable skills, but a big piece of hidden experience and things you can include on your resume are things that you do outside of employment. So again, it's that volunteering, it's those activities. Like one of our former students was really, really good / like winning MMA fighter. And that was part of what got him his job because it was a really cool thing he had on his resume, and the person who was interviewing him was really into MMA fighting. But thinking about things like that, what are you doing outside of here? Maybe you have a blog that you've designed in WordPress. I mean, that's something that's relevant or related to what you're trying to do. So thinking about experiences that you've gained that aren't necessarily employment is a great place to kind of pull out some of these hidden job experience, hidden experiences that you may have. Also, I mean, like for me, I customize, this is again, I'm ancient, I'm a dinosaur. I customize my MySpace using HTML, and I customize my LiveJournal using CSS. Now, I wouldn't put that on my resume now because I've forgotten pretty much everything that I did, but back then that would have been super relevant because I just wanted to make my MySpace look cool, but inevitably taught myself how to use CSS and HTML just for that. So I might utilize that on my resume. But thinking about things that you've done outside of work and school that may be relevant to what you're trying to do is where that hidden experience starts coming in. So you think outside the box a little bit when you're thinking about what an employer might want to know about you. It's not necessarily only work and Lighthouse. There may be other things. Maybe you had projects before you got here. Add them too. Questions on hidden experience? Yeah. I would put that on your LinkedIn. Yeah, you can link things on your LinkedIn too. Unless, okay, so Calgary, the question was, I have videos of myself playing the piano. Would I include that? If you are applying to be a developer at a music-related company, you would absolutely put that on your resume. But I would still host it on your LinkedIn because it's something cool and extra about you that they could look at. So that's how I would think about that. Do I want it on my one-page resume, or would it be better off on my LinkedIn? Usually is it super related or not so much? So it could be related if you're going for any type of music-related development, or if you're talking to someone who really likes piano, or if you have room on your resume. So sometimes the problem is one page is not enough, and sometimes the problem is I don't have anything to include to make a page long. If that's the case, then I would add activities and include your piano. Yeah, well, I would, a piano player would be experience or an activity that you would do, and talk about how long you've been doing it in your bullets, and then link to the videos if you wanted to. That's cool. I want to watch them, actually. I love piano. I miss my piano. Okay, questions anymore about any of this stuff so far? Super exciting, right? Resumes are so fun.
Where do we actually add the hidden experience?
Where do you add it? It depends on what it is. So if it's an activity or a volunteer, a lot of people have volunteering experience. You can actually create a section that says volunteer experience and include it there, or you can include it all under experience. It's really up to you. But if you're doing it as experience, then you need to design it the same way that you design your employment experience, which is title, organization, date, range, bullets. Yeah. Any more questions on resumes? No? Okay, so action items. What do we want from you? You have to go out there and create a live resume. So like I said before, and I'm going to send you guys the slide deck on how to do this, but Credle and Canva are the easiest ways to start. If you already have a resume and you want to be using that, that's fine too. It just has to be hosted. Usually Google Drive is what people choose. Just again, make sure that anyone with the link has permission to view it. So your job as my future job seeking students is to create your first draft of a web development resume and make sure it's hosted. Next week you'll come back, you'll pair off and see, even the dog's like, I hate resumes. You'll be pairing off to do peer review together with me and Mary and Tara in Calgary. So any questions on any of this stuff? You don't need to send me the link. Not yet. After peer review, I'll be sending out a survey and you'll fill out the link in your tagline for me. But for now, you don't need to Slack me the link or anything. Just bring a draft ready for our next workshop. LinkedIn. Let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your master resume, like we talked about. If you don't have one, I would suggest building one after you draft a resume, because it's really easy to take all the information from your resume and throw it into a LinkedIn after you write it. If you already have one, / when you create one, connect with all of your cohort mates here. You never know where people are going to go post boot camp. They could become really valuable connections for you later. Also, add all your mentors, add all your career services staff. We have network connections around here too. So LinkedIn is super valuable to access those networks, and you can also endorse each other in skills. So there's a skills section in LinkedIn. You can put all of like your entire tech stack and all of the things that you feel strongly about that are your strengths. And there's a whole bunch of you. If you all endorse each other on everything, you've got like 20 endorsements. I mean, that's rad, right? Like 20 people say, yeah, you are freaking awesome at JavaScript. Like, that's really cool. So utilize your each other for your connections, for your endorsements and things like that. You can also like write a review or a recommendation for each other. But again, like you probably don't need 20 of those. But endorsing each other on skills is a really valuable thing to do. Also, LinkedIn has a section in the settings where you can actually turn on and off whether you're job seeking. So if you turn that on, it allows recruiters to see what you're up to and what you're gaining, what skills you have, and actually recruit you. Quite a few students have been recruited on LinkedIn just because they turned on that ability. So definitely flip it on. Let everyone on LinkedIn and in your life know that you're job seeking, because you never know who knows who, and who you know is sometimes even more important than what you know. So using LinkedIn for that. Again, LinkedIn is very similar to your resume. You can just copy and paste if you don't have one. If you set it up in terms of where you worked, your title, your date range, and your bullets, just like a resume, you can always have that information at your fingertips, so that at some point in the future, if you're trying to apply to a company that's related to an experience you had 10 years ago, you can just go grab it and add it to your resume. Super helpful. Yeah.
To recommend you on LinkedIn, because at this point companies are not asking for references. They would actually go and look at who recommended you on LinkedIn. They don't waste time to call your previous employers or whoever. They just look at your LinkedIn. So just to add to that.
Yeah, super bonus. Yeah. Super bonus. Another super bonus is your LinkedIn will generally pop up before any other social media if an employer Google searches you. You want LinkedIn to be what they click on and not your Facebook or your Instagram. Pro tip there. If you're not sure how to use LinkedIn, I would be more than happy to show you. Generally, if you're looking at applying to a company, you can just throw that company name into the search box in LinkedIn, push enter, and it will tell you how many connections you have to people who are working there. And that's kind of how you figure out who you know who knows who. Like, I promise, every time I type a company in LinkedIn and push enter, KV's connected to somebody there. So definitely a good, yeah, he's not listening, but definitely a good resource to have, because I can say, hey, KV, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And the best way to approach people on LinkedIn if you want to connect with them is to ask them if you can information interview them. which is basically just asking them how they got where they are. People like to talk about themselves, right? So opening that door by saying, hey, do you mind if I ask you some questions about how you got to be a senior web developer at Geosystems? That would be a super good way to open the door for yourself. Okay, any other questions about LinkedIn? If you don't have one, they'll let you try a premium account for a month. Super good thing to do the first month you're job searching. They keep inviting me to redo it. So if you get a free trial of LinkedIn Premium, use it. Just remember to cancel it before the free trial's over. But definitely worth it. Any other questions about any of this stuff? Because the rest of our workshop time is actually time for you guys to do that draft. I don't want to take away from the time you need for all your projects. So we built in time for, what time is it? 11? Yeah, we built in an hour for you guys to actually try and draft a resume, so you don't have to worry about it before Wednesday. And Mary and I are both here, and Tara in Calgary, for any questions you have while you're building them, or to help you use Credle or Canva, whatever it may be. So yeah, go for it. Use your time wisely so you're not stuck at home by yourself with no one to ask questions to.